And Are You Okay is a not safe for work podcast, so any young listeners are discouraged from continuing. However, we literally have no way to track that, so do whatever the hell you want and enjoy the show.
Love that name of this episode.
I think we already used it.
Did we? I believe that sounds accurate.
Yeah.
Was that like Steve's return episode name?
No, I think.
I wish it was.
You know how you always say Disney's gonna Disney?
Yeah.
Well, in his mind, like Luke Skywalker is always inevitable, so no one's ever really gone. Just kind of like stuck in some of the earlier episodes. Speaking of earlier episodes, shout out to my buddy Jeff, who's been going back through the old catalog.
Jeff.
He had to get himself caught up with Clone Wars and Ahsoka, and now he's going back through the old ones, and he's like reminding me of gags Siebes and I did, like
love that way
back with like "Don't get near the water." That was
that's what got me. That's what got me hooked.
The classics.
I'm really excited. That's what locked me in.
There's a bit we do in the last episode for Mando season 2 that is peak. In my opinion, it's one of my favorite things. So if you're going to take a trip down memory lane, go check out that one.
I'm here.
One of my
here
favorite
for it.
Jokes that we did I was working at FedEx at the time, so it was I painted a picture, and when Siebes was the one editing the audio, he did me a solid and threw in some mood music for what I was going through at the time.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. I love that. Love that.
Speaking of everything, you're listening to Annie, Are You Okay?
A Star Wars podcast, amongst other things. we fit everything in here.
we find a way.
Big facts. Big facts. For sure.
This is going to be a big news episode, so we're gonna go through it. I'm gonna drop a spoiler warning here, but I do we haven't mentioned him on the pod a lot, but it's been a long week for me because I had to deal with some unfortunate personal matters. As I think everybody here knows, Ray the Ruiner on the podcast, her had to say goodbye to her pup, and Ray is a huge dog lover, and I'm bringing this up here because I really need to shout out another person, Jeremy, who we mentioned on the podcast.
Our guy Jeremy.
Him and his wonderful wife were there to help us say goodbye, as they are veterinarians, and they took care of everything. And while it was
awesome.
Very
he's
sad,
he's a mensch. He's a mensch.
He really is a mensch. I just we really appreciate that, and we often, if not on all recent episodes, have been putting a link to Franz Fund, which is they put together a fund where you can donate to help for pet care. If there ever was a time, this kind of feels like a good time to mention that again. We really appreciate them and all that they did for our family. And if you want to help us by saying thank you, go ahead and donate and help out some other pets. We'll keep the love rolling. We really appreciate that. And obviously, lots of love from our team going to Ray, her mom. She's a ruiner, but she's got a big heart, and we love her here. So just wanted to mention that up at the top, and then thank Jeremy and his wonderful wife Killian, who happened to be Rachel's employers, and were able to do us that.
Awesome.
I don't want to call it like a huge favor because it's very sad, but it's it really was. It was it meant a lot to us. So let's dive into Star Wars stuff. Now that we have got
total rant, not random. It's kind of in line with what you just said. Just to put some lightheartedness on the situation, because we love animals around here, and I feel like most people do. Especially dogs often have like a special place in people's hearts, for sure.
Absolutely.
When you were telling the story, I don't know why like random business plans like pop into my head, but I was just like, if I were to run a animal service that like only did surgery for like female dogs, I'd call it Bitches Get Stitches.
Bitches do get stitches.
Bitches get stitches, and I only service female dogs.
In the medical field, they get stitches when it's important.
That's what I'm saying, bro. I feel like everyone would love that place. It'd be great.
Then you can take them to the grooming aspect, and we call it Team Pup and Suds.
Hey, shout outs to Brink. Shout outs to Brink. That's one of my favorite Disney Channel original movies.
It should be everyone's favorite Disney Channel original movie.
He said, when you woke up today, did you say today I'm going to talk or today I'm going to skate? Like I said, we work in everything into this podcast.
So let's dive into some Star Wars news.
Dive right in.
Yeah, we're good. Thank you. I love putting that sounder in, but if I don't say hyper dive, I can't do it. So I need you. Oh, we didn't introduce. It's hi. It's Mikey.
It's funny how you always put it in the brief, like introduce yourselves, you idiots.
Yeah, and I forget.
We always
every time.
Forget.
I'm here with my guy, Matt
Rogue
Porter.
One, checking in, baby. I'm checked in with my Star Wars dad hat.
Yeah, that's right.
Continuity.
Oh hell yeah! You better be wearing that every week.
Look, bro, that's why I bought it.
Still expect you to wear it.
Look, bro, that's I got this one. I already showed you the Ice Cube one, so we can alternate, and then I got the Majin one for DB4L, our sister podcast, an anime podcast.
He's just branded. He's branded.
I'm trying, bro. I'm trying. 2024, man.
Okay, now Star Wars news.
It's the year of us.
You don't get this often from me, but we were wrong. Mando is getting a movie set to go into production later this year, confirmed by Lucasfilm.
A little bit wrong. A little bit wrong.
Titled The Mandalorian and Grogu. That should probably change.
I hate that, by the way.
Yeah, I know. It'll be the next adventure for the duo. Season 4, while reported initially to still be in development, has been riddled with rumors with either a truncated release or not a focus at this time. I think it's safe to say that if they do go back to television, obviously the next season of Mando will be Mando Season 4. But whether this movie is replacing a few episodes or just the season entirely, they clearly saw something there. I saw an interesting take on this, if you will, before we dive in. I don't want to spend too much time because we did talk about all the pros and cons, but after the writer's strike, it was like required for a television show to have a writer's room. And they were like, Lucasfilm just didn't want to hire a writer's room for this one. And I was like, maybe they don't. Maybe John and Dave were like, nah, we got the story. We don't really need to.
Is that a loophole? If it's a movie, it doesn't require a writer's room versus a TV series?
Shows require a writer's room.
Tricky.
Yeah. So that could be the reason from like a logistical business standpoint. If it is, can't say I blame them for like working around that if they didn't want other people to touch their story. But at the same time, I think we both agree that Star Wars is better told in a television format. I don't want to speak for you, but any extra thoughts here on the fact that we're getting the movie instead of the season of television?
I do find it interesting, and I'm kind of when you have first sent me the article, and again, we will, as a way to increase our viewership, go back and listen to the episode where we talked about it in nauseam, like pros and cons versus movie or not. But I do find it interesting. So when you first sent me the article, I was just like, damn, they're going to do the movie. And again, not going to go into why we didn't like that as much or what our trepidation was for it. But I did find it interesting, after like reading it, and, we talked about it briefly, that they're not saying, oh yeah, this is in replacement of season 4. It kind of like, I'm getting like a companion movie vibes. Like this might run, like you said, cover a couple episodes of season 4, and then they'll do the series, or maybe they'll start season 4. I guess the movie's coming first because this was announced first. So I guess that'd be a weird switcheroo to then do the series.
The rumors said that it would be like 6 seasons or 6 episodes. I'm sorry, and then the movie would finish.
Oh, okay, cool. So then,
but that's a rumor, right? So I could see it working either way, right? Where you either have it to start off the season or have it end the season. I would hate for it to be like in the middle of it, but if you're like what you're saying is true as a companion, like kind of like a for TV movie, right?
Yeah.
Special, if you will.
A very Star Wars Christmas.
That to me seems like the most logical thing for them to just be like, let's just take them on an adventure. But I think the adventure has to be important for the both of them in order to make it a movie that you want to put out in theaters.
Word. Yeah. So, but the point that I was making is kind of like to what you just said, like Star Wars does seem to be told in its best format when it's in a television series. And then you even dropping that nugget, like this is kind of like their way to skirt around the writer's room. Maybe they did have like an idea like, all right, this is where we know we want to get this stuff in and we don't want people to touch it. All right, let's make it a movie. and then like the back 6, we could like open up the writer's room and things like that. So it does seem like a smart play, but just the acknowledgement, because typically I feel like, Disney's gonna Disney. It's a thing I always say here. I feel like if they were replacing season 4 with a movie, that would have been like the campaign, like, oh yeah, get all your season 4 needs in one movie. Like, why wait 8 weeks? We're gonna give you a movie from like all types of shit. It would have like tried to convince us that this was a great idea, but for them to even like be saying like, hey, like we're not saying this is replacing 4, I think they're aware that especially Mando, like it's for TV. It's made for TV. Yep. Like we love it being a television show, and then again, not to go into nauseum about what we've already talked about in terms of the movies. It does seem like a weird flex to like be teasing this Avengers team up movie and then throw in another movie before that, unless it is just kind of like you said, like really just like a special, kind of like with the Ahsoka episode, like that we went and saw in the movie theater, then the Shamity Strangler. So it's like if it's presented as that, like, oh hey, too big, this was just too big for TV, like type thing, like I'll be fine with that. Versus I don't want this to take away from like the Avengers team up, like, so I don't want this to be like, I don't think it can.
We'll talk about that further when we get into the next piece of news, because the next piece of news is specifically why I don't think it's going to take away from Filoni's movie at the end. I'm not trying to paint Jon Favreau in any sort of negative light, but I think when you've done as many things as he has, and he has such a prominent foothold, and he's responsible for creating the character, maybe he was a little selfish in saying that he wanted to tell a story with these characters, and I can't really blame him. Like he helped bring them to life, and he's only directed one episode of The Mandalorian. It was the Crate Dragon episode at the beginning of season 2.
Good episode.
So maybe he just was like, no, I want to tell something, and it's just going to be the next part of the story, or it'll be like because they were writing season 4. That was confirmed. They were writing season 4 in season 3. Like in interviews, Favreau said, he was like, yeah, we've been working on season 3 and how it leads into season 4, and like we're already writing season 4. So something tells me that like he just had a few episodes that were something like that he was interested in telling that story.
They were like already done. Like, all right, I don't want nobody to mess this up. Yeah, exactly. That's what it sounds. Yeah. That's what it sounds like.
That's the vibe that I get, and I taking like ownership of certain things, I don't think is a negative thing. I think some people could see it as a negative, and like obviously the not hiring a writer's room, like after the whole strike, I could definitely see people like spinning that in a negative way. But I'm not offended, if you will. I actually think that it's like let them do this. I think that they know what they're doing. I don't think that they've made one bad decision so far. While season 3 of The Mandalorian may have felt underwhelming to quite a few people, Star Wars television tends to take its time in like really developing its storylines, and some things that seem insignificant, I think, end up playing a much larger role than people realize when you get to the end of the story.
Yeah,
and that's always how Dave is doing it.
Yeah, and I would imagine from like and again, pure speculation, just, try to put myself in someone else's shoes. Jon Favreau, in my opinion, doesn't really get the public acknowledgement for spearheading the MCU. He directed Iron Man, but like a lot of people just like, oh, Happy Hogan, or oh, Kevin Feige. Like, like they get all the praise. It was like, no, like Jon Favreau or like, so it's always like Kevin Feige and Robert Downey Jr. are typically like the two names that you hear like, oh, like they built this ship type time. Yeah. And it's like Jon Favreau doesn't get credit. And I feel like a lot of people might just be not hearing this for the first time, didn't even know that he was the director for the first Iron Man movie. They're probably just like, oh, I thought he was just Happy Hogan. Well, it's just like, so to that, I would imagine him, there might be a sense of like, even though he's been involved with it through and through, was even like heavily involved in the new season of What If. Spoiler warning. That wasn't really a spoiler, but he's in there. But I would imagine like with this, he's just like, all right, yeah, I'll let y'all do this to me with the MCU, like not giving me my founding father stamp. Like, nah, this is mine. Like I need,
for sure.
I need
and
something.
Go look at how many executive producer credits he has in MCU films, because it's more than it's
right.
more than a handful.
Right, for sure.
And not to mention, he's like, I don't want to say he's like in Disney's bag, but realistically, Disney has given him the tools to develop so many of these like technological features that are responsible for the volume. And whether you like the volume or not, I think it has its place in it. It's really good when it's like good, and it's not so great when it's bad. But it's revolutionizing film. So
big
like,
facts.
Actors no longer have to act in front of a fucking tennis ball or a green screen anymore. So, like, it helps inform their decisions, and he's responsible for a lot of that. So he's not just being tacked on there as like an executive producer. He's pioneering new technology, doing what George always wanted to do. So he's like adding to the legacy of Star Wars and Lucasfilm. But yeah, you're right. I don't think he gets his just due, and
he's putting his foot down. He's like, I need something that's more.
Yeah, hopefully this like theatrical release is something that we all look back on and are like, wow, Favreau killed it. Would love to see him tackle other things in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. In my opinion, and again, I don't know. I'd have to look it up, but the stuff that I know he directed or had like a hand in have all been good things to me. Like I don't know, like his IMDb of director credits, but like so the stuff that I know he did. Oh yeah, he did that. He bodied that.
Yeah.
So I support John.
If this is an avenue for other creators who are like active at Lucasfilm to get movies too. No offense to, we've seen quite a bit of directors get tacked onto projects, creative differences happen, and then the movie gets scrapped, or they have to bring someone else in, and the movie completely changes. Like this has happened so many times.
You, Blade.
Yeah, this has happened so many times in the last few years, especially at Lucasfilm.
Especially in the MCU.
Yeah, that too. It's like riddled with it. But I hope this opens up the avenue for, it's like, okay, John's been here for a while. He's directed an episode of The Mandalorian. We're giving him a movie now. Same with Dave. Can we raise the hand for Rick Famuyiwa and Bryce Dallas Howard to get their fucking like hands on a Star Wars movie?
Big facts.
That is just kind of, that's where like I'm coming at it from. But I think it's definitely something that we should hopefully trailblazes for them. And I don't really have much else to say about the Mando and Grogu movie. We did talk at nauseam.
Go back and listen. Go back and listen.
But let's move on to the next piece of news. So, next piece of news. So,
it's a mouthful.
No, but seriously, in that same press release from StarWars.com, they like just put down in like a blurb at the bottom of the article. They're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, Ahsoka season 2 is confirmed to be coming out, and it'll happen
FY, little FF.
Yeah, it'll happen before Dave Filoni's theatrical movie." And it was like, "Oh, good to know. This to me is bigger news than the Mando movie."
Yes, especially because isn't it? I don't know. I thought I saw like a storyboard for it, like Ahsoka and Sabine standing on the statue of the father. Yeah. So I was just like, oh, they're like in production right now. Let's go. Yeah. Exciting.
Yeah, Dave's out there drawing, man.
I'm hyped. I'm hyped for it.
He hasn't put out any, because he's an illustrator, like, first and foremost. I think that's what he went to school for. And I know he did a lot of storyboard art for, like, animation prior to kind of, like, spearheading the Clone Wars and stuff like that. But he really put out quite a few, like, illustrations during Rebels and stuff like that. This is the first time he's put out something in a while. So it was really cool to see his art again. And on something so recognizable to us. You know, it's really one of the last things we saw. Or it's combining a couple of the last things we saw. You know, Balin was standing there. Now Ahsoka and Sabine have tracked down, you know, that trail. I think this is a good time to maybe talk about, you know, now that some time has passed, like, and we've confirmed that season 2 is happening, and it's not going to be, the movie is not going to be where we get these things resolved. There's going to be likely 8 more episodes where things get fleshed out. What are you looking forward to seeing?
Man. So I will say, if the storyboard is anything indicative of what's coming, it seems as if season 2 is going to pick up right where we left off. And I know that was a thing that we were kind of debating on. Like, we kind of were like, we could see it going both ways, where there's a time skip and Ahsoka and Sabine have been training and on that planet for a while, versus if they go right into it. So I am excited about that. I do wonder how they're going to handle Ray Stevenson's casting, if they're just going like right into picking up where they left off. Because I know we had like mentioned before, if they do like maybe not even like a big time skip, like maybe a couple months or a couple weeks, they could have it like if he finds the temple, like maybe something happens that like he goes through like a metamorphosis and like his physical features change, and then you could obviously like recast it that way. So I'm curious to see how they're going to make that change happen, if they literally just pick up with Ahsoka and Sabine hot on Balin Skoll's trail or whatnot. But I'm super excited. I mean, we kind of talked about this too, like with the finale of Ahsoka. Go back and listen. But no, I'm very excited. For me, low hanging fruit, but I really want to see like the Ghost crew interact. Like I would love, I want to see that Zeb Ezra reunion. Like we got like the Chopper Hera Ezra reunion, kinda. I would love to see more Ezra Chopper antics, you know, from the show and everything. Them like running missions together. Still holding out hope for Hondo. You know, like always. we got all the other players. Just give us something. But yeah, but I definitely, I guess in its totality, to put in a nice package, I'm looking forward to like more live action Rebels shit, essentially, for Ahsoka season 2.
Well, you know me, that was my big. That's what I want to see. I think Hera was just as much a main character as Sabine and Ahsoka. Ezra coming into the fold, I think, played a pretty large role in those last couple episodes. So yeah, I would really like to make sure that we're jumping galaxies, if you will, going back and forth between the two. I don't think I need to see 8 full episodes of just Ahsoka and Sabine tracking down Balin on Peridia.
Fact, though.
But that being said, if most of the show took place there, I wouldn't be upset. I also had like a weird idea of getting around the Ray Stevenson casting.
Give it to me, daddy.
I think a lot of the best enemies and fearsome enemies in Star Wars have worn masks. And it'd be great if his adventure took him to a place where he like had to peer through a mask, and like due to some like Night Sister dark magic trap, it like burned and stuck to his face like Doctor Doom. Okay. I like that. Then you get around the recasting, and you only have to do a little bit of the deep faking to get to that point.
Or even if something just happens to him, like, because I would imagine said temple is going to be booby trapped. I'm pretty sure people can't just like walk up in there. Like,
right.
Yeah, I would love that.
A trial of the flesh, you know, like something like that like takes him and like you said, morphs his face. I think there are plenty of great recasting options. Ray Stevenson played the character so well. It's going to be very hard for anyone who steps into those shoes, even a top tier A-list actor. I don't want the character to just disappear because Ray Stevenson is lost. Tell the story you want to tell. Like the fans can handle it.
Big facts. And I do think that, well, one of a theory, and we kind of had talked about this when we had did like a recap for the finale of season 1. I do like the idea if, Baylan is the son, like literally physically having him like assume that role, and like it could be like a Sam Witwer or somebody, but like literally just like have Baylan's soul transform into like the physical embodiment of the son, and that would be the reason that he would like look completely different, like on some reincarnated type time, like after Anakin killed him in Clone Wars, spoiler alert, like like his essence like went into Baylan's skull or whatever, and then like him going back to the temple, like it comes, he like transfers back into like his old body, like that'd be like a real easy way.
I do really like that idea, and I do think it's easy, but I think it sets a precedent for, well, if Ahsoka is meant to replace the daughter, that she has to change form.
Right, I get what you're saying.
People would not be cool with that.
They would just want her to be her. So yeah, I feel you. That's a good point. That's a good point.
So I don't think your idea is bad at all. And maybe it's only a dark side thing because the dark side inherently is selfish, right? So the son wants to maintain his form.
Could be that.
There are ways to explain it. But I just
that could literally be a conversation. Like, oh, I could have chose any form, like type time. Like,
he shapeshifts in Clone Wars. So
that's the easy explanation out of it. But actually, you kind of touched on something so the reason my answer is more like live action Rebels shit is I feel like season 1 did a really good job with like setting the path for like what Ahsoka's story is going to be from here on out. And it's like, I feel like I don't need a whole nother season of y'all like beating me down with that, like, okay, she's meant for greater things, she might be like the daughter or she's involved in that, that triangle somehow. So I was like, I feel like that's been super well kind of like laid out for us, that like it will help explain why she wasn't around for like some of the bigger things and like the sequel trilogy and stuff like that. So I was like, I like kind of what you were just saying, I don't need 8 episodes of Sabine and Ahsoka on what's the fucking name of the planet again, forgot that quick. Peridia, yes, Terabithia.
The bridge Terabithia.
I don't need 8 episodes because it's like outside of Sabine's training, which again I'm pissed they made her force sensitive, but it is what it is. Like show me, like let's get into or I would love some flashback episodes of like what Ezra's been doing this whole time and whatnot, what have you, because there's a lot of theories that people are like, oh, double agent, him and Thrawn came to an agreement, like their houses weren't too far from each other, how come we never found them type time. Like I feel like that would be and aren't Sabine and Ahsoka like in the village that Ezra was at, like with the shell people,
the Nodi, but they were like a nomadic village. I just can't see Ezra being a double agent.
Oh yeah, I don't think he is either. I was just saying them being in that village, I'm saying like them being in that village, it would be easy for them to like tell stories about like what Ezra was doing and stuff, like get flashbacks through that way. Like they don't,
and
he does,
Ahsoka
because
has
he's not
the
the Echo shit,
that Cal Kestis has and Quinlan Voss had. Psychometry, I think it's called.
Sounds right to me.
So that would be cool. Like maybe if they took some time to do that. Whatever puts more Amon Esfandi on my screen, honestly, because that dude killed it.
I need them to do something about the eyes, because those contacts were rough, bro. Like
it's so funny. They don't bother me.
They bug the shit out of me.
I'm surprised that it didn't bother you with Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Hera. Her eyes are like teal.
You know what it was? I think the aesthetic makeup was so good, it like distracted me from that. But it's like with Ezra, it's like it's just him as a guy, just piercing blue contact. I don't know, maybe like I don't think it's the blue. I think it's the iris, like the black. I feel like that's really big. Like I feel like that's the part that kind of bugs me.
Maybe they'll test a few things out.
Or even fucking CGI that mug. Shit. That's so where funny, CGI could be used.
The only other character that's made the leap that hasn't had quite or like the eyes like are a big change is Saw Gerrera in the Clone Wars has blue eyes.
Yeah.
And and then in Rebels he has green eyes, and in Rogue One and Andor, Forrest Whitaker's not wearing contacts.
It's just his eyes.
Yeah. It's honestly like that for him almost feels like a character trajectory. Like his eyes go from bright to dark.
That's dope.
As he gets further into the rebellion and like further into, you know, I feel like he lets his anger fester to a point where like all he can see is the darkness in the world.
I fuck with it.
So I fuck with that, but
from a contractual standpoint, Forrest Whitaker's probably like, yeah, I'm not wearing contacts for 7 months.
That's a fan explaining why something might
I'm here with
represented my work. So
it's funny because I just YouTube wormhole, and that's apropos to this conversation. I just like stumbled upon a random Haley Steinfeld interview where she was talking about, you know, how Kate Bishop has blue eyes, and she actually opted. They had to ask her like, oh, do you want to do the contacts or do you want us to just like do it in post? And she was like, oh, like to stay true to the character, she chose to do the contacts. And she was like, it sucked. She was just like, I don't think I'm going to do it again. She was like, I think I'm just going to have them just blue my eyes after the fact. Like whatnot. She was like, those contacts, she was like, they're really rough to wear, especially a prolonged period.
Like such a weird, from comic book to live action, I don't think anyone's eye color has ever been something that I've totally paid attention to.
Yeah, I didn't even realize the Kate Bishop.
Peter Parker has had a million different eye colors.
1,000%
over the course of Spider-Man's run.
1,000%.
I think the only thing that like if someone had like red eyes, like Nightcrawler, right? Like for him to have different eyes would be distracting to me.
I feel you. Like for a character where they're, you know, all right, so I think you helped me unpack like why it bugs me. I guess kind of like what you're saying, like for a character whose eyes like are their notable trait, then yes, it's very important to make sure that you get that right. But it's just like, I've never, like in Rebels, like Ezra's eyes aren't like the thing that like, that's not like his like defining feature for me. Like for one, it was the hair after you got the cut is like just very like, oh, why would you ever do that to yourself? Like type thing. Or like, you know, like with Kanan, it's the beard, and you know, Sabine, it's like whatever color hair she has and whatnot. Like, but like Ezra for me, his eyes, like I remember saying to you, watching the episode, I remember like saying back to you, I was just like, the blue eyes were a weird choice, and he was like, no, his eyes are blue in Rebels, and I had to like go back and look, and I was like, oh shit, they are blue, because it's like that isn't like a really big thing in Rebels. Like his eyes are just blue. It's not like a crazy thing. So like for in Ahsoka it to be noticeable, that's what I guess throws me, because it's like now I'm like focusing on his eyes, or it's like I've never done that before in Rebels. It was just like, oh yeah, man's got blue eyes. Yeah. It is what it is. Like,
it really is. But hey, man, I think they did a good job casting these guys. It would, like you said, I think it would be a waste to not get some more live action Rebels. Pull Zeb in there. Yeah, we
got to. Why show that he's, you know, active and around and
listen. I'm out here. I'm ready for these guys to show up in other shows. They can show up in Mando for all I care.
1,000. I mean, Zeb did show up in Mando
for sure. If it ends up connecting the story,
which it seems the move this is going to, it seems like we're
right, then I'm fine with these guys having some pre-existing relationship. For Ezra to connect with Grogu, I think would be really interesting.
Oh yeah, that would be lit.
And you know, honestly, like anything that Ezra's doing, if Jason happens to be tagging along,
he has to train him.
Right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that relationship to me would probably be like a clear focal point. And then you know we'll move on from there. But I just think this Ahsoka season 2. Really glad it's happening. I did not want this to get like wrapped up quickly. I think there's a lot more stories they can tell in this time frame, and I really hope that the movie pops off on some Infinity War Endgame type shit after we build up to it after quite a few more seasons of television. So, and hey, maybe this Mando movie is like, maybe they're like, oh, this worked really well, let's do another movie, and then the Filoni's movie will be like a third in the trilogy, you know.
Yeah, I'm here with it.
Of like this Mando timeline stories. There was another big story that is, to me, a rumor. This comes from Daniel RPK, who I put no stock in in what they put out. Like, literally none. I don't think this is real. If it is real, I'll admit I'm wrong again. But apparently
it's like
Star Wars
broken clock, right twice a day type thing.
Yeah, exactly. Apparently Star Wars is getting its own what if treatment. Believe it or not, there's precedents for this before. There were comics that told what if stories for Star Wars. But off of, Marvel's success with What If, a fun animated retelling of those shows, and that obviously Marvel had a What If storyline as well. Do you think it's true? I don't. But do you think it's true, or do you think it's like
so
or not?
When I sent it to you, I was like, "Oh, it's lit." If true, it's lit.
Yeah. But you're skeptical.
Yeah, no, I'm super skeptical. But Disney's always gonna Disney. So it's like that would be like my one glimmer of hope that they see how well What If does in the MCU. Because like What If season 2, I enjoyed thoroughly. I was very happy with how it went. So it's just like, I feel like, I guess Visions is kind of like their version of What If for Star Wars, even though these are like actual things, or like they can be considered, things that actually
like a lot of them
place.
don't interfere with canon. So
exactly,
like they could be their own things, or they're just like an weird offshoot, which is just another country's like interpretation of how they view Star Wars, right?
Exactly.
So I think that Visions is kind of like the What If. There are episodes of Visions that I'm like, turn this into a series. I don't care if it's canon or not. I'd probably still watch it.
1000%. Did we ever do Visions Part 2?
Visions Part 2? No.
Well,
don't worry, guys. Maybe
something to do.
It's not our fault, Travis. So busy.
Nothing's ever truly gone.
We'll find a way. We didn't, because of my favorite episode from Vision season 2, we did not cover.
Was in the back half. Yeah, I'd have to rewatch it again. An excuse to rewatch it.
Oh no, an excuse for me to rewatch something Star Wars.
I can't believe it. But so because Visions exists, that's why I'm kind of just like, meh, it is what it is. But again, because Disney's always gonna like go with the cash grab, and What If is doing so well, it would not surprise me at all. Like if it did end up happening one day, and I would be all the way here for it. Sign me up.
I think regardless of whether we think it's true or not, I'd just love to hear. Can you give me a what if? What's something that you want to see?
I could. So it's not even speculatory. It's kind of been not main information lore, but like for people who keep up with all the other stuff and the threads and the books and whatnot, it's widely known that our boy Sheev purposely like stunted Anakin when he became Darth Vader. Put him in a suit that was not complimentary to his circumstances. It was very painful. He purposely kept him in pain to keep him in check. I would love to see like what if he actually like gave him a dope suit, like something that like helped ease the pain, actually did the shit for him that we know that he could have to get him back up to as close to being 100% as possible. I would have loved to see Darth Vader like fully functioning, like the implants, like not just like shit that turn Snapple cap twist on and off, have him gimping around. So yeah, I would love to see that. Like if Palpatine actually what if Palpatine actually laced Darth Vader?
That's an interesting one, and like much more like compelling than like what if Anakin won, right?
Yeah.
So like he goes through that loss, and then because did you ever play the old Revenge of the Sith Xbox video game?
I had it for PlayStation, and he jumps over Obi-Wan and gets him. Hell yeah, I played that.
And then
kills Palpatine.
Gives him his new lightsaber, and he's like, "Nope, I'm the Emperor now."
Yeah, stabs him. Yeah, sits on the chair. Yeah.
He said, "Bitches get stitches."
Bitches do get stitches. Name of this episode. But yeah, what's funny? My timing might be off, but I feel like that game came out before the movie. So it's just like, those kind of like mega spoilers in that game.
It did come out before the movie.
Yeah, I was just like, oh wait, this how this ends? And I remember not being like devastated, like they just ruined it for me. I remember being like, oh shit, if this is how this goes, it's crazy. But like, that was a wild strategy.
Look at like the actual release date, because I think it was one of those things where it came out like maybe a week before.
Yeah, like right before. But I remember like I barreled through that game. Like I remember I definitely beat it before episode 3 came out. And like as an adult, I've always thought that was really weird that they would like actually, and I know obviously for like certain boards they like extended and added like the Grievous Obi-Wan fight in the game is completely different than how it is in the movie. Yeah. But the Anakin Obi-Wan fight is literally how it is in the movie.
It's pretty close. The other one that is extended tremendously is the Anakin versus Mace Windu fight.
Yeah. That was fun. That was a hard board.
Yeah.
I had to do that a couple times.
It is interesting. I think one what if that I would want to see though is,
what if Qui-Gon lived? That's probably would be a popular one.
That would be like so long though. I think it's like if you're trying
you'd have to do mad time skips,
like half-hour episodes.
You'd have to do mad time skips in that one.
Yeah. Maybe what if 5 succeeded, and then you go through like this whole thing where like the Jedi are tipped off that Palpatine is like orchestrating everything, and they have to put together like a mission to like stop him from seceding power.
That'd be dope. Yeah, hell yeah, that'd be dope. Or even on some like, I don't know how to how I would verbalize this, but even if like the council weren't so far up their ass that they like kind of caught the plans before it happened, like even like had they listened to Qui-Gon early in the game, essentially, I guess would be a good way to put it.
You know, one thing that the Marvel What If series does that I'm like always kind of shocked by is that like they'll take like a storyline that like people will be like, oh, it'd be cool if this happened, and then they like throw an extra wrinkle into it. So it's like instead of what if Qui-Gon lived, they if Marvel was in charge of it, they'd be like, oh, that's an interesting story. Let's take a step further and be like, what if the council said that they could train Anakin, but Mace Windu made sure he was the one to take it over.
Oh, and so it's yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like Mace Windu's like, no, we're not doing this. Oh, you're okay, fine. The council decided we're doing it. Well, then I'm gonna oversee it and make sure that like,
that'd be dope.
Could see it being like a really good episode that like sheds light onto Mace Windu and Anakin like having this like contentious relationship, but it's like obviously a really strict one. And then you could bring Samuel L. Jackson in to voice him again. Which would be nothing against the voice actor who does it for the Clone Wars and Tales of the Jedi.
He's really good. I don't mind him. I couldn't tell you his name.
He's been in a lot of shit. He's really good. But I would love to hear like since Samuel L. Jackson is Nick Fury and all of those What If episodes. I'm like,
he came back. Especially like and again, this was never confirmed, and it's just kind of one of those theories where it's like if you ask somebody who has like power to say something at Star Wars, they'd be like, they never really give an answer. Even if they added the element of like Mace having been told that he was the chosen one pre-Anakin, like even if they like kind of put that into their relationship, like, oh yeah, I'm training my replacement, essentially, like, oh, this was me, like everybody thought I was the one, and now you're here, like, little bitch. Bitches get stitches. But yeah, 100%. I would like that. I would definitely like that. But yeah, that would be dope. Yeah, I would love to see the Clone Wars if Qui-Gon was still alive, because I would imagine he kind of was getting hip to Dooku's like schemingness and like, oh yeah, because that was his old master. So he was like, oh yeah, he been had a problem with the Jedi. I definitely think he up to some shit or whatnot. Like I would like to see like the Clone Wars if it would be like, you know, Qui-Gon's forces versus Dooku's forces. Like they're like kind of like the main figureheads. I think that would be dope too. That'd be cool as shit. Because you know, Qui-Gon would like, he'd like, yeah, like I'll lead your armies, but I'm not a lieutenant. I don't want that armor. Like I'm not a soldier. I'm a keeper of the peace. Same time.
So, just a weird question that like made me think of it. One of the pieces of What If that I think is like super underrated is Jeffrey Wright's narration. What character would you pick to narrate?
Ooh.
The like What If like for everybody?
Seer. I would have Seer narrate it. She has a very calming voice.
That's a really good answer. That's a really good answer. I love that.
She has a very calming, stoic, like buttery voice. I'll just be like,
no,
tell me more.
Fucking fantastic.
Hey.
That is a really good call. Now I'm going to be upset if that's because like I could see her like standing in front of like the, you know, like the bookcase type. Like,
hell yeah, yeah.
Like,
on some Crypt Keeper Tales from the Crypt type time.
yeah. That's fucking phenomenal. Oh my god.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't even have no rebuttal here. Like
that's all we need.
That's what I want. Good call. Well, you know, I mean, you're always a real one.
I mean, I try.
Last
bro.
week, if you tuned into And Are You Okay?
A Star Wars podcast.
You got to hear some real talk.
Unintentional.
From our resident Rogue One.
Smack Talker Skywalker.
Yeah, that's right. He was here. Thanks to Ray the Ruiner. Shout out to her for coming up with the name of our new segment here. Might not be every episode, but I'm sure we'll find ways to do it as often as possible. We're going to dive
when my gears are grinded, that's when it'll come.
That's right. We are going to go into a new segment here at And Are You Okay?
A Star Wars podcast.
And we're going to cue the sounder in a couple seconds here for doubly named by Ray the Ruiner. Real Talk with Rogue One.
One. So me and Mikey have decided to keep me from getting stuck in a rant. We're going to limit these to a maximum of 5 minutes. I'm not always going to have to use the full 5. Shit, I might only need a couple seconds for some venom for some people every now and again. But if you ever listen to us, and I hope if you're here, you have listened to us. But if this is your first time, welcome. Keep going. Go backwards and forwards. We love you. But if you've ever listened to our podcast, or anytime me and Mikey have ever done any type of content, nerd related, somehow my hate for the final season of Game of Thrones always slips its way into a conversation. It's always an aside. It's always a tangent. And a lot of people know I devoted 10 years of my life to that show. And pre the last season, it could have went down as my all-time favorite show of all time. But that last season, season 8, was ass juice. And I hated every second of it. Not one thing about it that I appreciate. And a big thing that we've also talked about at this on this podcast and other places that me and Mikey have covered nerd shit is a big theory, which I take as reality because it's been talked about ad nauseum from so many different places, is when David and Dan, suck a dick, both of you, when they were making season 8 of Game of Thrones, because they had caught up to George R.R. Martin's books by season 7, and they pretty much had to just make their own ending. Little backstory: when Game of Thrones was created, George R.R. Martin tested David and Dan to see if they were worthy to take on the mantle of making this to a live show, and they asked them based off of what I've written so far, who are Jon Snow's parents, and if they got it right, he would have approved the show. If they got it wrong, he'd be like, yeah, nah, I'm not signing over the rights. They got it right. Spoiler alert. Jon Snow is really a Targaryen. You know, I'm not going to go into all this because it's in the Game of Thrones podcast. But when they caught up to his books, the agreement was, as long as you get to my ending, this is George R.R. Martin talking to D&D, as long as you get to my ending, I don't really care how you get there. It's your show. I haven't even finished the ending. Still waiting on that, George, by the way. But as long as you get there, just get there. So when they caught up to the books in season 7, season 8 was all freestyle. They were doing their own thing. They were doing all original content. And at that point in time, because they had been riding on the back of a dragon of George R.R. Martin and his greatness, Game of Thrones is heralded as one of the greatest shows of all time up until season 7. Again, in my opinion, the greatest show of all time. But when they were given the ball to do it themselves, themselves, they fumbled the bag. And why this is relatable to a Star Wars content, a lot of people know and or assume and or it is implied that when they got offered the job to take over a Star Wars franchise, not the Skywalker trilogies, they were going to do their own thing. And Disney came to them and was just like, we want you guys to do Star Wars. Another little fun fact about D&D, they have both been on record as saying Star Wars is what made them want to become filmmakers. Like George Lucas is their god. So when given the chance to do Star Wars, it is largely believed by the masses that they fully phoned in all of season 8 so they could hurry up and be done with the show to start Star Wars. Because Disney was just like, finish your obligations to HBO, then come on over here. Season 8 was ass juice. And because it was so ass juice, Disney was just like, you know what? You guys aren't that talented. Never mind. And scuttled the whole thing. Karma. My rant that I'm about to finish up is randomly on January 11th, an article came out of IGN. David and Dan have never spoken about their Star Wars movie that never happened. Randomly, for whatever reason, the 20th of 24, they decided that they wanted to speak on it. And boy, did they give some bullshit political PC answer that they basically said that the reason why their Star Wars movie wasn't made anymore is because that the vision that they had just didn't align with what Disney was trying to do at that time. This article, which can be found on IGN, basically goes over that they were going to make a movie called The First Jedi, and it was basically going to exactly what it sounded like, explore a film exploring how the Jedis came to be, the first ever Kyber crystals, first ever lightsabers, the first people to like become in tune with the Force, whatnot, what have you. And Disney just wasn't looking to go that far back in the lore. We now know with Acolyte that they are willing to go pretty far back in the lore. Y'all's idea probably just fucking sucked. And then they even doubled down as to blame Rian Johnson, saying that had he not made The Last Jedi, which they feel that he ripped off from them title-wise, then they could have made The First Jedi. And I'm just like, no, y'all fumbled the bag and imploded on Game of Thrones. And Disney was just like, y'all can't do shit for yourselves. We don't trust y'all with original content. We care too much about our product. You're fired. Ladies and gentlemen, fuck David, fuck Dan. They ruined Game of Thrones. I will never go back and rewatch that show because of the quality of season 8. That has been my time for session 1 with Real Talk with Rogue One.
Clap, 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 clap. Jesus Christ. Benioff and Weiss probably have to fucking they got stitches, dude. Because they're bitches.
I'm not saying that I'm pretty sure that they've done nothing since season 8 of Game of Thrones, but I feel like they've done nothing since season 8 of Game of Thrones.
The funny part is they are now exploring that like first Jedi type thing with James Mangold, and it's like, oh no, they were fine with going back this far.
Just
they just
y'all
didn't want to do it with you.
With you two motherfuckers.
Thank you for getting in the ears of our Animaniacs.
Thank you for that time.
Doing Real Talk with Rogue One. I appreciate your passion. I have never watched Game of Thrones, which I know sounds weird as someone who's very into it. I only have room for so many fandoms, I guess. But based off of that, I don't think I'll ever watch it.
It's crazy because it's such a good show for 7 of the 8 seasons. Immaculate. It's an amazing show. Like I said,
you don't land the ending. Hey, man.
Yeah, boy, did they not land the ending. And it's crazy because it's like, sometimes shows are meant to be divisive. It's meant to spark conversation and, differences of opinions and whatnot, what have you. And typically you can usually find something that worked, like, oh yeah, they didn't do this well, but oh, they killed this, or oh, this character's arc went well. They fumbled the bag on everybody's story ending. Like all main characters for that show were given such a crazy disservice with just like, oh yeah, we need to hurry up and finish so we can go do Star Wars, which is what our dream job was. Like it was just so evident. Like the coffee cup gate. Oh my God.
Unprofessional from top to bottom.
From top to bottom, like probably one of the craziest things, and this is Real Talk Rogue One 1.5, but I'll get off it after this one thing. But like, again, from my Game of Thrones fans, like, and I won't say too much in case you do want to go back and watch it, but there was a major storyline plot about, the prince that was promised, and, Azor Ahai, the Lord of Light and everything. And that was like a major through line for like the entirety of the show. And then one of the main characters that was like the biggest proponent of said storyline just dies. And they don't give no explanation as to, you know, like, who was the prince that promised, you know, why, what was the prophecy? Like, did it get fulfilled? Like, and literally a character in the show says to another character, so much has happened because of this Lord of Light. And I'm paraphrasing. And basically, you know, like, we put so much time into this prophecy, into this magic and everything. I refuse to believe that that was just it. Like, there had to have been more. And to which a character in the show, his literal response is, some things we just don't get an answer to. If that's not the biggest slap in the face for a devoted fan base who's been waiting 10 years for resolutions to like mysteries, to have an actual character in your show just verbalize, being like, yeah, you're not getting an answer. That's just life. I was like, get the fuck out of here.
That is the laziest fucking writing I've ever heard.
Bro, talk about saying breaking the fourth wall. It's like a middle finger to your fans. Like, it was just like, hey, because it was announced, like, before season 8 started, it was announced that they had got, you know, tapped to like do Star Wars movies. So it was just like, don't give me chicken shit. I remember
it being a big deal. I was like excited because people obviously raved about the show, and just because I wasn't into it didn't mean that I wasn't like excited. You know, I thought it was going to bring a whole group of people who, you know, weren't as into Star Wars. And if done right, they're like that. It could have been epic. Like, could have been epic. Like, I would have loved to see like a Game of Thrones-esque style of visual presentation in Star Wars. Because like that'd be dope. Like I'm here for a PG-13 Star Wars movie that's a little bit more gory. A little bit. I would say that Andor and Revenge of the Sith have that tone.
Oh yeah, big facts. Big facts. But I know because of like the lightsabers, like it obviously like instantly cauterizes a wound when you hack somebody. But I wouldn't be mind to see some blood. Somebody gets stabbed up by a lightsaber. See some blood.
Beginning of The Force Awakens, Finn gets a bloody hand on himself.
Exactly.
The audience can handle it.
Exactly. But
I think the thing is like the Avengers like movies have like definitely gotten a little bit darker than some of the other MCU films, and there is a slight element of gore. I mean, even the Guardians of the Galaxy movies have quite a bit of that. So
yeah, they was all bloodied up by the end of the first Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Like,
so I think the audience can handle it.
It don't have to all be Kill Bill, but it's like, yeah, like you said, like,
for sure.
We can handle it. Like, we can handle some blood.
I was 6 when I saw the first Matrix. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, because for me. And again, like, I watch movies differently than like other people, but like for me, I do always find it funny in like adventure movies or action movies that they are aware that a lot of kids are going to see it. Like when a character dies of like a fatal wound and there's no blood. Like, I just find it always takes me out. I'm like, bro, get up, just get up. It's like it's little like dirt, little dirt around soot and smuts and shit. But it's just like where are you bleeding out from, bro? Like,
all right. Well, thanks for joining me this week, Matt, for Annie Are You Okay?
Star Wars podcast.
Go tell the Annie Maniacs what's up. I'm all over the place today. You can find us at Annie Are You Okay?
A Star Wars
the
podcast.
Letters ANI Are You Okay Pod on Instagram and Twitter. I don't refuse to call it its other name.
Never calling it that.
And you can find us on our sister podcast, Dragon Ball for Life.
At
DB4L_pod. We are still championing our interview with Skylar Giordano, architect of Omega Star 7, friend of the pod. Listen to his episode here on Annie Are You Okay about world building. Very, very good conversations we have with Skylar. So glad he could join us. They were fun ones, so definitely go check them out. And we have lots of new content coming your way. We can't divulge everything, but I know that there is a chapter review for the end of the Dragon Ball Superhero
Chapter 100
coming. It's coming soon.
Very soon. Very soon.
Yeah. So we have that on tap for you. If you're into that, please go check that out over there. And Matt, go ahead and lead us out of this bad boy.
Animaniacs, feel like I haven't done this in a while, even though we do this like fairly regularly. It's weird. I be gauging, like, even though like we like do stuff and like have it in the can, I be gauging our interactions based off like when the episodes come out. So like, oh, it's been such a long time.
Yeah.
And I definitely was with you like a week ago, but it's fine. Yeah. Oh man, but NEAX, y'all already know. Y'all are in the know, you know? Whether it's the sequels or the prequels, whether it's Cal Kestis, Seer, the new narrator for Star Wars What If, or Rey. Life can be a beach, but as long as there's no sand, you guessed it, Annie, he gonna be okay.
Be okay.
Bow.
May the Force be with you.
And with you. Later, nerds.
Deuces.